Hi, welcome to On the Couch Conversations with Muki. Today I'm having a conversation with my friend, Professor Tumi Diale. I've known her since 2007. Welcome to the couch, Tumi.
Thank you so much, Muki.
Really, it's a pleasure having you. Tumi, as I said, I've known you since 2007. We were together on the Sandpad project, RCI project for our PhDs. So, for someone who doesn't know who you are, who would you say Tumi is?
Where do I start? Tumi is a girl from Duduza. I know Duduza is a very small township then, on the east end, or the current called Eguruleni, the east end of Gauteng. I grew up in Duduza, Niger, as a girl in the Mudupi family. I'm the firstborn child of my parents, and I've got a brother, a little brother, and I'm a township girl. I might have evolved through life in different stages and being where I am, but I'm a purely township girl who loves fun, who loves work, who loves people, and who can actually make sure that play and work dance together.
Oh, we'll talk later about the play and work that dances together. Now let's go to you saying township. Can you just take me back to when you were growing up? What would you say is one thing that you remember about township life growing up?
My lessons or things that really come into my head when I talk about the township life. We grew up where Tutuza was a very small township, as I said then, and we literally knew each other. The whole township, doesn't matter which corner of the township. So basically, those were values, basic principles or values that I learned was that every adult was a parent, every big girl, big boy was your big brother or big sister, and you needed to know that you cannot just do whatever that you want. You always have to watch your back in terms of behavior, in terms of how you interact with people, but also learning the fact that as a human being, you can never be in isolation. You are part of the bigger system. And it doesn't matter what you have or where you come from as a family or as an individual. You are part of the other systems, and it is important for you to actually take care and look after others.
Wow, that's wonderful. So to me, then you go to school. I assume it's in Duduza, and you matriculate. And I know that you are a career advisor, career guide person, an educational psychologist. So you get to grade 12 and you have to decide what you have to do. Take me through that process.
My schooling process has been an interesting one, Moki. To start with, I grew up being a very sickly child as a starting point. So at a very early age, even before I go to high school, at the primary school level in standard 4, which is the current grade 6, I had a stroke as a girl, as a little girl. And for many times, many people didn't think I would generally make it in life because every now and then I was either in hospital or not at school, sick. But interestingly enough, when I got to standard 6, which is the grade 8, my parents decided to take me to the boarding school despite the health issues. And in my first day of the boarding school, again, I got sick. I came back. So it's interesting to say my 5 years of high school, I went to 3 different schools.
Wow.
Purely because I was in and out of boarding school. On the year that it doesn't work well, I'm back home and a local school is found. And then fast forwarding to my matric year.
Yes.
When I did my matric, because as you'd always know that I'm very chacherach. I don't know the best way to put
Yes.
that, but I'm a very chacherach, very open, upfront person. I was the SRC then, or the LRC then, chairperson of the school. And I was at a boarding school in the Limpopo area. Then it was Bupedi. And as an SRC person during pre-1994, during the strikes, school student strikes, we had a strike at the school. Interestingly, I was not even involved in where it started or how it started. But being a Duduza child,
Yes.
you know, and being a talkative person, people thought I was actually part of the strike. And I was arrested at that standard 10, grade 12. And I got into jail. And the only way of me being released was for me to be expelled in Leboa.
Wow.
And that was in March.
Sure.
I'm in matric.
What year was that, to me?
It was 1996.
1986?
I'm trying to think.
It's
what
before 1994. So
no,
it's
it's before. Yeah.
1986.
Yes, 1986. Sorry,
When all high schools were burning.
Yes.
Because I was also arrested in 1986. That's why I'm trying now
yes,
to
86,
say. I'm seeing parallels
yes,
here.
86.
Yeah,
And
86. Wow.
And then Limpopo, then remember, which was Leboa, was a homeland. There were different rules. So I was released on the provision that my parents took me and I don't come back to study. I was expelled in Leboa per se.
Wow.
And it was March. And as we know, in those times, at matric, you cannot change schools. There is no school that will accept you.
Yes.
And then I am back at school. It's March. I don't have school. I'm expelled in Leboa. I cannot get schooling in the Transvaal, and I'm in my matric year. Fortunately enough, family members, distant cousins of my dad, there were 3 brothers, and they were teachers at a high school in Guatema, which is another township in the East Rand. So they spoke to the principal. I was accepted into matric March. The adjustment, going into a new school altogether.
Yes.
One, I had to face the issue of just being rejected by many teachers. Who is this girl? When many children have been rejected at matric, and she's taken in March. 2, the subjects I did in Leboa are not in that school.
Wow.
I have to change the stream.
Wow. In matric.
In matric. And my matric was a donkey napper because I had to take subjects that the teachers felt I can be in their class. And then 3, the school is a Tswana school, Tswana and Zulu school. I am a Pedi girl. I'm from Limpopo. I've done Sepedi the rest of my life.
Wow.
So there's no Sepedi. And I have to do Tswana. So the other thing, subjects and whatever, I agreed on, but I literally refused to do Setswana. And they told me I won't have a teacher. I said, yes, when it is the period for Setswana, I'll go to the library, I'll teach myself.
Okay.
So that's how I did my matric.
Wow.
With totally all subjects were new for me except English and Afrikaans. The other subjects were totally new, and I taught Spedi. I didn't have any Spedi teacher.
Wow. Sure. And now you get to university, and you've chosen psychology.
No.
What? Okay, let us hear that.
My university journey is an interesting journey. When I passed my matric, by the way, I did matric 2 years. I passed my matric with a school leaving certificate with all the changes of the subject. And my mother was not impressed, and she took me back to school.
Okay.
And all my friends were going to college to be teachers. And my mother says, you are not going to college. You are going back to repeat your matric. I went back to repeat my matric. I got my exemption. And I was really okay to go to university. And my mom, I'm like, okay, what do you want to study? I'm clear that I want to study law.
Okay.
That's me. I'm going to study law. I need to fix these things that happened in my 5 years of high school. So I'm clear I'm going to university, then TEFLOP, University of Limpopo, because purely my cousin was there before me, and I thought I've got somebody safe there. And then my mom, as I passed, she's excited. I'm going to do law. 2 days before I leave for Limpopo, my mom was like, oh, you said you are going to study what? No, Mama, I'm going to study law. And my mom is a nursing sister. I mean, she's learned, she's educated. And she looks at me and says, I'm excited that you're going to university, but I don't have a child who's going to study law and die because you talk too much.
Okay.
There went my
Wow.
law dream. I was like, Ma, I'm going to study. So if I'm the bill payer for this
Yes.
university, you will study education.
Okay.
So there I was sent to Teflop with a suitcase. I hadn't applied, by the way.
Oh.
I had the suitcase and my mom told me we'll see you in June.
Wow.
So
wow.
I'm one of those who did self-application at the gate with
Yes.
a suitcase ready to start.
So what you did education then?
Yes, I studied education.
And when did you start specializing then in psychology?
I actually did psychology as a mother of Katlego and Ofense.
Okay.
When I was working as a teacher.
Oh, wow.
And I felt I'm tired of teaching
Okay.
and I started studying psychology.
All right, now you're talking about your kids. Let's go to family. You are married. You are a mother of two. You've got two beautiful, wonderful sons. Just tell us a little bit about your marriage and your family.
Okay, I got married in 1995. They say it's my 26th year in marriage.
Wow.
And because I come from maybe just going a bit to my childhood, I come from a system where my parents divorced when I was in my second year of university studies. I was very skeptical of marriage, I have to say, when I got married. So I sort of got into marriage with gloves that you dare. You know? And for a longer time, years went by, 2-3 years, I'm ready. And here's the sweetest man on earth who's like not even aware that I'm ready.
You have the gloves on. Yeah.
And I thought that's the one part that I feel when I say God answered my prayers, because I made sure, God, if I have to get married, you have to make sure that this man knows what he is getting into and would love me unconditionally. And I got governor, just became that man who loves me unconditionally in my madness, in my sadness, in my laughter. He is just the man behind the scenes.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
I have to say, I got married with a degree. I've got a PhD. I'm a professor. It's all because of his unconditional love and support for me. It doesn't matter what I say I want to do. He'll never say no. He'll say, how do you want us to do it? How? You know, how should I help you to achieve that?
Yeah.
So then we're blessed with two beautiful boys. They are now, or young men. They are now 24 and 21. And we just are a loving, happy family that loves God, that also just love each other. We are there for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my boys are there.
Now, you're talking about Governor and how he is loving and supportive. Now you have two young men. What would you say are the lessons, whether they are, intentional, lessons or lessons through observation, that Governor has taught your boys, about, life and, loving? Yeah.
The one unintentional one, I hope they learn it. I don't know, it's because they always try to say, we are not going to be like Papa. You know, when we met with Governor, I used to say, despite having parents that have divorced, during their marriage, my father, there's one thing that he used to do. He woke us up with a cup of coffee before we had a bath, before we went to school, or before we bathed for school. He would wake us up in the bedroom, give us a cup of coffee, and then we can wash and be ready for school. So I said to Governor when we were dating, my father woke me up with a cup of coffee. So will you be able to do that? And he laughed and whatever. 26 years later, every day of my life, I wake up. I don't get out of bed before I get my cup of coffee. And my boys always say, is that what we need to do with our wives, having to do a cup of coffee? And it's just one of the lessons to say to them as the boys is, there is love, there is laughter out there, and the important thing is the significant other in your life plays an important role. And don't ever try to make the significant other your mother, your other mother, as a boy child. That's the
Yes.
lesson I teach them. And for Governor, one of the things he always says, you see how I live with your mom. Take the bad that you might have seen that we know or we don't know, but take the exceptional things that I want you to take and go out there when you have wives. Those wives will look back and say, we married good boys or good men who were taught well in their family.
No, thanks about that to me, because I'm just thinking as a psychologist, what would you say are the challenges that a boy child is facing now, particularly in South Africa, but I think it's a world phenomenon. But in South Africa, what would you say is that big challenge, and how can we mitigate, trying to resolve it, if we can?
Yes, we can, because I think the biggest challenge, Muki, is naturally we've known mothers to be nurturers. And, the whole theory of saying the boy child will click to the mother throughout and the girl child the other way. And with time growing, the girl child although moves to the mother. In one or the other, we are pushing dads away. But one of the biggest challenges that are there with, even though we don't push it literally so, but one of the biggest challenges that we have, it's an absent father. And an absent father, it's not necessarily physically absent, because they are physically present but yet absent fathers. It's how fathers are not linking and talking to their boy children. And as a mother, you try then to mitigate and protect your partner on the other hand. But then the bottom line is you're not a man. There are things that you can talk from textbooks, from what you hear others, but you have not experienced. Only the father or the male figure can be able to teach your child better, because they have experienced that. So it is with the high rate of absent fathers and also single mothers, it is important for men who are intentional about fatherhood and manhood to stand in the gap and play the role of fatherhood in spaces where there are absent fathers, whether they're physically absent, whether they're emotionally absent, absent or psychologically absent. But we really, one of the biggest challenges we have with our boy children is the absent father.
Wow. Now let's move to your career. Before, I think you went to be a lecturer at Rand Afrikaanse
Universiteit, yeah.
Rau. And I just want you to go through that journey, but I also want you to touch on the center that you created outside of Rau University.
When in my 8th year of being in the government space, I had gone through in my 2nd year of teaching, I became an HOD. Then I went to the district, went back to the school as an HOD, then went to a special school. So in 8 years of my career life as a teacher, I felt I had gone through the cycle of the Department of Education, and I don't know what next to do. For me to go one level up, which is a vice principal or whatever, would I have to kill the vice principal for me to get there and then kill the principal? So I had sort of reached a cul-de-sac, and I was a bit unhappy in that space. So I took a conscious decision to resign as a teacher. And I remember the day I resigned, I simply said to my loving husband, "Dear, did you marry a teacher or a wife?"
Okay.
And he said, "Why? I married a wife." I said, "Oh, then it means you can take care of your wife when she is unemployed."
Wow.
Because I am resigning. I'm not intending, I am resigning. She said, "Oh, really?" I said, "And because I'm so emotional about this resignation, can you please write a resignation letter for me so that I can submit it on Monday?" He wrote it, and he thought I was joking. On Monday, I submitted it and I resigned as a teacher. There I started studying my psychology. That's where my psychology started.
Okay.
I did my master's, my master's in psychology, and I finished my degree and then did my internship. So when I did my internship as an educational psychologist, I got my internship at the psychological services at UJ.
Okay.
Yes. And at that time, when I did my psychological services for that 1 year, where I did my internship, it was like, okay, I'm wondering what I'm going to do after my internship. But the next year, I happened to be appointed at RAU, as a, it was not even a tutor position, it was a junior lecturer, if I were to say, facilitator, of student affairs. And
Okay.
from there, 2 years later, I was appointed as a lecturer
Okay.
at RAU, in the Faculty of Education then, but still an RAU. And it was at that time that I realized, oh, I'm in this space called academia. And in that space that called academia, here was this black girl with white colleagues,
Yeah.
where you are in a meeting and people spread Afrikaans. And she has a petty girl. And I intentionally, there was a stage where I kept on saying to people, but you lose me, and I'm part of this meeting. This one particular meeting, they continued with Afrikaans, and I responded in Sepedi because I could hear Afrikaans. Not that. I responded in Sepedi, and I demanded it to be minuted.
Yo. What did they say? What was the reaction?
The reaction was, sorry, it was not intentional. What were you saying? I said, I was speaking in my language, and as you were speaking
Just
your
like
language,
you.
but I wanted to minute it. And since that day, anybody who would go into Afrikaans, they will remind themselves, no, please talk in English for Tumi. And that was the second thing I corrected. It's not for me. It is the principle that the meetings are held in English. So don't think you are doing it for me or you are doing me a favor. We either talk in our languages or we talk in a language that is a formal language for the meeting.
Wow.
And I think that was my first foot of asserting myself as an academic. And then I met you then in 2007 when I did my PhD. In my last year of the PhD, I felt as an academic, I was in this department where I was a student, by the way. So I felt people were not taking me serious. They still see me in the eye of being their student and no more a colleague.
Yeah.
And I left. I joined the psychological services of UJ, actually, as a psychologist, senior psychologist. But the academic in me still had that thing. But I was still within RA. It was then UJ, it had changed to UJ. And it was still the same thing. People that I know, people who see me as a student also. So I totally resigned from higher education. Recruited by Saibono. Saibono, it's a science center in Gauteng. It's a Section 21 center.
Okay.
Independent, and they're subsidized by the GDE.
Okay.
Saibono had wanted to start a career center. And we had a meeting with them whilst I was still at UJ. But they abandoned the thing. Then they remembered me when they started the center, and they recruited me to start the center. The center was actually half of this room that we are sitting in. They called it a career center.
Wow.
And they had just been given money by BHP Building that they built a 3-story building.
Wow.
And they didn't know how to actually transition from this half a room to a 3-story building. And I was given that task.
Wow.
To create that center. And the contract was clear that I've got 5 years to create this center and make it a center of note in Gauteng.
Wow.
I didn't know how to do that. I had taken the risk. I've resigned. I have to make this happen. I surprised myself, Muki, that in 2 years, that center was up and running. I had changed it. It was a nationally known center. And it was up and running. And I got bored.
Oh,
by the way, part of me that I get bored quickly.
Let me just interrupt you there. So who did this center service?
It serviced the community. It serviced schools.
Okay.
It serviced the other provinces.
Okay.
So we would do career work for the community, we would do career work for the schools, and we would also travel in the provinces, to do the work in terms of
Okay.
career development, career counseling, career assessments, the whole field of
Okay.
careers.
Okay. Now you get bored.
I get bored because now the adrenaline of making sure a center runs, the three-story has a meaning. You have the different divisions that are psychologically related and career related. Now I'm a pure manager sitting in meetings. That was not to me. Listening for people 3 hours in a meeting. Felt now my time is up here.
Yeah.
And it was at that time that actually at the right time, because when I left the Faculty of Education, by the way, I told them I'll come back. I don't know when, but I'm going to come back to this faculty.
Yeah.
It was at that time that one of the staff members resigned.
Okay.
And the person who resigned was actually teaching career psychology.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't recruited me back. Said, don't do what, we've got a post. You promised us you'll come back. Don't do what. Said, this is the opportunity.
Wow.
I went back to UJ as a senior lecturer in 2013. Became the coordinator for the master's program.
Yeah.
Came 2017, I was the HOD of that department. And
Yes,
here
and
we are,
you are
in
now.
2021. I'm the Vice Dean of Teaching and Learning in the
Yes.
Faculty of Education.
Wow, congratulations for that, really. So what does that mean? You come from Duduza. You have the experience of having stroke, and seeing a bleak future, people around you thinking that you won't make it. And today you are a vice dean. What does that mean to you?
I become emotional because I didn't actually say when I did my master's, Moki, I had a heart attack in class.
Yo.
That was another
Yeah.
story that I had a heart attack in class. And when I came out of hospital, as I said, I was already married. I had children. We were staying in Soweto in a 4-roomed house with no bathroom.
Wow.
My white classmates, there were only 2 of us as black students in that class. My white classmates thought they were giving me a treat, and they bought me bath salts
Oh.
as a treat. And here am I.
With no
I don't have
yes,
a bath.
no
I
bath.
wash. And they didn't know. So I said, guys, this is a beautiful gift, but
Can't use it.
I can't use it. Why? I said, no. Then they said, if you wash in a dish, where do you go in the toilet? Outside.
Yo.
At night.
Yes.
At night, there's
The pail.
the pain.
Wow.
And it was an eye-opener for my classmates that they didn't actually think that definitely is this. And, despite that, I bounced back. And being a young girl at Duduza, growing from Duduza, especially now with this vice dean, I never thought how much of hope I'm giving to the Duduza people. But it was in this position when it was advertised that my home girls and boys are like, wow, you are making us proud as a Duduza child. And one of them actually realized, which I wasn't even aware of, that I'm the 3rd professor from Duduza and the first female from
Wow, from
that township.
Duduza, yes.
The first 2 is the well-known Professor Njabulo Ndebele
Yes,
as
yes.
a Duduza child. And the
Okay.
second one is Prof Soli Chapole
Okay.
at Wits. I'm the 3rd professor who comes from Duduza and the
Wow.
first girl female
Wow.
who comes from
Wow.
that. So it is a sort of sweet but emotional thing to say. How do I ensure that more come from that
Yes,
space?
yes. And you say to me you are very passionate about women and children. Just give me a little bit about what is it that you mean when you say you're passionate about women and children?
As I said, as I said earlier on, Muki, that I come from a family that divorced, and I know what domestic violence is, and I know how it affected me as a girl child. It sounds ironical to say actually that domestic violence I experienced, which was not directly at me, my father never abused me per se, but it was towards my mom, and I was an observer as a teenager, as a child. But it's so interesting how it sort of led me to where, contrary to many stories, that the children will then go haywire. Because actually, that experience closed me. I literally used to close myself in the room, but with books, because my aim was, I'm going to be so much educated that no man will tell me anything.
Wow.
And as a girl child, I will make the world aware that girls are here and they have the potential like boys, or even more than boys. So for me, it is making sure that for women and children, we need to learn that we all have potential. God has given us all potential. Our success or our stories or our survival is not at the palm of a man, but it's at our palms. And
Yes.
men are an important part of us, I have to say.
Yes.
But they're not us. They're not our heartbeat. And we need to learn to find our own heartbeat and teach our girl children to find their heartbeat and not to think that their heartbeat is at the palm of the man.
Wow, 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 wow. Now let's move from that. That's something big. That's huge. I just wanted to sink in. But I just want you to go back to being a professor and being a vice dean and still being an academic, because the vice deanship, is administrative. You are an HOD, you've got that part that is administrative. We see you publishing, presenting in conferences, belonging to societies, and you were outgoing chair of an association. What, helps you to balance all of these? You've got governor, you've got your kids, you've got your career, and within that career, I must just add that as academics, we are expected to do, community engagement. You've got your research or scholarship, and then there's teaching and learning. So how do you really balance all of this?
I always say we are told as academics that we've got four key roles. We've got teaching and learning, we've got research, we've got leadership, and we've got community engagement.
Yes.
And I say, I've got 5 key roles. I've got teaching and learning, I've got research, I've got leadership, I've got community engagement, I've got fun.
Okay. All right.
Fun is academic for me. It's part of my academic journey. Because I think my experience when I entered into academia, nonetheless, I have to say metaphorically, I think the cold walls of Rao, because, it slaps, gray, cold slaps.
Yeah.
I found academic as cold as its walls. And I made a clear decision that I'm not going to be a miserable academic.
Yes.
Because I found academics spending their whole lives in this space. And when they get to an age where they have to retire, they're so scared to go out to the world out there, because for a better part of their life, which is where we spend our career lives, they don't know anything except publishing, leading, teaching, and at least doing some community thing in and out. And for me, I was sure that if this 5th element doesn't come in, I would definitely leave academia. For me, my fun, my family, and my people around me, because when everything else falls in academia, I'm falling back to that Diale family.
Yes.
I'm falling back to those friends of mine who don't even know what writing an article is, who've never even read one page of whatever publications I do. So when I went into this position, actually, I had a really internal debate, and I said it to my dean to say, I'm applying, yes, I'm recruited to apply. And I have to say, somebody called Muki Mieng was also on my neck with this application when I wasn't sure whether I really want to go into this administrative role. But I made it clear to everybody who knows me, even my mentors, to say, there I find this role consuming the child in me, the Tumi in me, the fun in me, the other work like research. I love my research work, my research work. There I find it consuming and I become an administrator. Watch the space, I will resign.
Wow. 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 That's interesting to me because most academics, think that you need to be divorcing all of this, and you are talking about all of them having, a part in your life. So what advice would you then give to an academic who would really want to make it? You get junior, senior lecturers who want to become professors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say to academics, and I'm doing that actually practically with the young academics that are under my mentorship. I have 5 young women who I mentor as young academics. I would say the first thing I taught them was, there is you, there is Tumi, there is Muki before there is a title. There is Tumi, there is Muki before there is academia.
Yes.
There is Tumi, there is Muki before there are articles.
Yeah.
And if you are going to take articles and every other thing that is academic to consume the real you, then you have to know that part of you is living a lie.
Wow.
You are not living a holistic being. And just think of yourself that if they were to take just away the academic, who would we know?
Yes.
Who would we see? And if you are able to see that in you, if the world were to open and you are on the highest national, international TV where we see Muki, what Muki would we see? And if we see the Muki who says, I published this paper that was read by one person.
Yeah.
Or, I do this, but doesn't say, I still don't know who Muki is. I just know Dr. Mwen. Then you have missed the point. You have missed the point of living and living to the fullest. And living, being a holistic being. So before any other thing, there was you before academia. And that you should never get lost in the chain of academia, because it's easy for it to get lost. It's very easy in academia to be consumed, to be made guilty. That when you post every day on Facebook, when that time you should have been using for writing. And I said, that's writing, I'm writing.
Yeah, okay.
Do you think I'm not writing? If I write on Facebook, whatever nonsense I write, I'm writing. It's writing.
And to me, you're talking something, I was saying to someone the other day, Facebook helped me to go through my cancer journey. If I didn't have Facebook and there was a pandemic, no one could visit me. I was under treatment. Really, no one could visit me, whether there was a pandemic or not. But Facebook kept me, alive. And that's the connection we have with people. And it doesn't make you a less of an academic or less of a dean because you are on Facebook. Because we are social beings. Why wouldn't you, be a social being? Okay. But then now I just want us to conclude then, to me. I was asking you about, the advice. Now you are the vice dean. If you are comfortable at all, just to give us, what do you foresee you accomplishing in the next 5 years? So what is it that you want to do? You were a student at Rao. You worked at UJ. In the Faculty of Education, certainly there are things that you would want to achieve with your team, of course. So what would those things be?
Muki, I think it's a combination of things that have to do with my vice deanery, but also I happen to be blessed enough or fortunate, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I happen to be blessed enough to also be the president of the UJ convocation.
Yes.
So We get into universities, we get our qualifications, we go, and they become a distant relation and eventually lead to be non-existent relation. And as a vice dean, one of the key things is, whilst I strive to get that for the university, but for my faculty in the role that I play, is to connect with the teachers that we've produced out there. Get the heartbeat of where are they? How do we further support them? They don't have to come back and pay fees for UJ to study something for them to connect. But the fact that they are our alumni,
Yes.
how do we, if we talk real community engagement now,
Yes.
how do we connect with them and ensure that they are the kind of teacher that would be proud of to say, this is our product as the Faculty of Education at UJ. That's the first thing. The second thing is, there's the one thing probably you'll have realized it in your own institution. Universities are evolving in terms of staff. A lot of staff who've been there for years are going out on retirement, and a lot of young staff are coming in. There is this missing middle gap, because the institutional memory is going and these ones are new.
Yeah.
But those who are still there in terms of the institutional memory still want to keep this institutional memory and things that don't even work, and don't want to allow the young and the restless, they know my team, I call them the young and the restless, to bring this young vibe, this new being of the 21st century academic, and we want to infuse in them the fear that when you're in academic, these are the rules. And my role in these 5 years is to want to break that. There are no rules. Rules, it's what we do together now when we dance together. Because I believe when the music changes, so must the dance. We might have danced the ballroom dance, which we learned, me and you, when we joined academia. But manje, it's kwaito. How do we assimilate the kwaito that the youngsters are coming with in academia and ensure that they enjoy their dance, and we watch their dance with them, we enjoy the dance with them. So for me, is to ensure that in the next years of my vice deanery, our vice deanery period is 3 years.
Okay.
I had actually committed to saying the younger generation must get promoted into senior positions. The younger generation, yes, must publish, but non-publication doesn't mean perishing. If you are unable to publish, what is it that we can do together that you can excel in? We cannot all be publishers, let us be real. And what is it? What is the one thing that you look at as an academic that one day when you are seated with your grandchildren, you can say, I left that for you as a legacy in my role as an academic. If I can achieve just those 3 things in my period of a deanery, vice deanery, in the Faculty of Education with the staff I have in my faculty, I will have said I've done my part.
Wow. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to me. It was a wonderful conversation, and it's what is running in my mind is the heartbeat. Don't let anyone else be your heartbeat. Be your own heartbeat. So thank you so much for the conversation, and all of the best with your vice deanery.
Thank you so much, Moke, and I am humbled to have been invited to have this conversation with you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. There you have it. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.